Well, interesting we talk about that now, but you know me for a number of years now, and I made the journey out from New York to California in search of the legend of J.C. Brown, a fictitious name where later I learned the man's name was John Benjamin Body, only to find out later. Fortunately for me, after I discovered his true identity, I was able to get a photo of the man, and the man looks exactly like me. And when I went to California and I found tunnels, I found different things leading to what the man had found 90 years before, I realized the only way this could have happened is I had to have been John Benjamin Body. So I learned in this lifetime one of my layers, and I'm fortunate for that. And many people listening to this might have a hard time believing that, we don't die and reincarnate. But I'm here to tell you that if you listen, you will get signals and signs that'll show you that we don't die. We continue to evolve, and we come back on this planet to be able to learn and be perfect with the Creator.
I agree. We're constantly in a learning phase, and I don't know how the idea came that we just died, and then either you A, go to hell, or B, go to heaven. And I kind of, as a kid, I used to always find that as like, that's kind of a waste. Like I have to come here, be obedient, and then either live in a city of gold, the way it was described to me, or I burn in hell. And I was like, boy, that kind of sucks.
It reminds me of an old Bill Cosby joke. You must obey, Obey. It sounds like, an oboe. What's this fire and brimstone? I thought our God was a loving God, not one.
Yeah, what happened?
So was this God wearing colors? Was he in a motorcycle gang or something? What happened to the God, the loving God that I've come to know in my heart? So it's interesting when you get that coming from the powers that be, trying to put you in fear when it comes to your own individual spirituality.
Yeah, and I gotta give a lot of thanks to James Gilliland, because that when you get to the that's the last chapter, and I won't give it away, but there's a part where he actually meets a version of God, and that, not the whole thing, but some of it comes from James Gilliland's own experience when he died. And for those of you who are familiar with him, that's where I got that part, was from his own experience. So, what is it that we're here for? What are we looking for? Why bother? And you're here for growth. This is the school, That's at least that's the way I look at it, and that's from my perspective. You don't have to agree with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody has their own perspective. I personally know James Gilliland. I've been on his ranch, as I know you have, and I've seen some hard to explain things while being on his ranch that defy logic. And can I quickly tell a quick story here?
Yes, please.
All right. And I don't think I've ever told you this. We're on the ranch the first night there, and we're out there looking at the stars out in the field there, where everybody sits with the chairs in a circle. There must have been about 30 people, but it started to rain. And this was back in 2008, and this was 8808. So it's the big eights, so to speak.
Wow.
But it started to rain, so we all went back to our tents or the housing, and I went in my tent, and my girlfriend and I had separate tents, and it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at this time, and we both fell asleep. About 3 hours later, I was awakened by a presence over my tent that was about 8 foot in height. I look over, I thought it was a bear out of my tent. Now, my front screen was closed, Ramon, so I couldn't see out, thank God. So I got my boots on. When I unzipped the screen, whatever it was had disappeared, and I'm looking out. I don't see anything, but now you hear the dogs barking and flashlights and a big commotion. While this is going on, I get out and I'm looking for this thing, whatever it was, and I'm looking out in the field. I don't see anything, so I ran into this fellow Michael there, and he told me, "Did you see it?" I said, "I saw something. It's about 8 foot tall." He goes, "Other people have seen it." So I go out and I sat there in a circle now from 3 o'clock in the morning till 6 till the sun comes up. Now Renee comes over at 6 and she says to me, she goes, "I heard you and Michael talking." I says, "Yeah." She said, "I thought I heard you around 2 o'clock get out of your tent and walk in front of the tent in the field there, which is, would be right in front of Mount Adams there." She says, "I thought maybe you had to relieve yourself or something." But then I looked, and she says, "Wait a minute, Stephen's about 5'6" or 5'7". This figure I'm looking at is about 8 feet tall, and it was looking at her for about 20 minutes and just stood still there, and she lost it. She's saying, "Please don't hurt me," and she was sending thoughts to this entity or this being. So she's telling me this, and then right after that, people started waking up, and I'm still sitting there in the circle, and they were saying a lot of people saw this large being. And then I ran into James in the morning, and I told James what had happened. He says, "Yeah," he says, "my sister saw it as well. They visit us quite often." So I just figured I'd share that with you, that there are the tall ones among us probably living underneath the hollows of Mount Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some weird stuff there. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance, but what you should have done was got an interview.
I was glad that I did not have my front zipper open, because at 2 o'clock in the morning, I might have had a heart attack, Ramon. I mean, that's something, because, I was in a little pup tent, and what would have happened was if I had unzipped the zipper when I saw this ominous shadow over my tent, it would have been probably too much to handle, because it was pitch dark, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what my reaction would have been. I'm not John Wayne, for that matter, and I don't think the unexpected would have been good for my heart at that particular time. Although, as I said, I had just come away from, being in the field there, and you could vouch for this, seeing some amazing craft in the sky that when James would flick his laser light, they would power back with a light as though they were acknowledging his laser light going up and beaming up into space.
Yeah. Agreed. I've definitely seen that more than once. I got a funny story about the ranch really quick. When I was there, 2010, I was staying there for 3 weeks. And towards the last week, everybody, the conference was over and everybody went back. And that was the first time I got to meet my partner in the radio show, Tom. And he went back already. And I was walking around the ranch, and everybody was already tired, and so a lot of people who were there, I went to sleep early, so it's maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to have contact, this is the perfect night to have contact. There's nobody around. I don't want to hear any excuses, so I'm like walking around the property, so finally I get tired, go to sleep, and I don't know how much longer later, but I wake up and there's this green light flashing on the wall. And I was like, oh shit, this is it. Oops, sorry. I was like, uh-oh, this is it. We're making contact, but I'm scared out of my mind, and I'm just like, okay, gonna make contact, you gotta turn around. No, wait, who is it? And finally, when I had the cojones to turn around, it was the coffee pot, the timer on the coffee pot flashing. So I finally, I told myself, I said, be careful what you ask for. You might get it, you know. And it's like we're always talking about let's make contact, but are we truly really ready? And I mean, it's easy for you to say, yeah, I'm ready, you know, yeah. But when you're really faced with it, how would you react? Because the last thing you want to react is in an ignorant way, which is like, I'm going to get my gun or, you know, pick up a bat. It's like, these guys just flew here from wherever.
Well, you know, you're right. It's like the universe has a sense of humor. For me, like the following year in 9909, I'm up on Mount Shasta, another, you know, 3-digit numerology year. And we're up there, and everybody's wanting to see a craft, a presence, something at the mountain, because a lot of craft are seen, not only Mount Adams, but Mount Shasta as well. So we're up there, and it's a full moon that night, I believe, and up there a couple of hours. So finally we come down from the mountain, and we're in front of my residence. So we're praying there. I take sage out, and I do a little spiritual saging of the area where I'm at. And all of a sudden, after about 10 minutes of us doing this, we look up, and the cloud just opens up, this large lenticular cloud, and what we see is about a dozen large craft that's flying above us. And must have been lasted for about 10 minutes. It made its way east, away from us. So it had left the mountain and was going east. And you could see it for about 10, 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden the cloud, lenticular cloud, just closed up. And my friend and I looked at each other. And she says, I'm glad I wasn't alone when I saw this, because no one would believe what we both just saw.
Yeah. I mean, there was another time back at ESETI where it was my last day, and I was coming back to New York. I was still living in New York at that time, so I was flying back to New York. And there was this guy and these two girls from Australia there, and we're sitting there. It was a cold night. Even though it's summertime, Mount Adam gets really cold at nighttime. So anyway, we're sitting there, we're bundled up in our jackets, and I see what looks like a satellite coming over, just like a satellite, except this stops, and it's like to the to the right of Mount Adams, and it stops, and all of a sudden there was this flash of light, like someone took a picture, and all you saw was, the best way I can explain this, was like a blue plasma cloud dispersing. It didn't look like regular cloud. It looked like plasma, like a blue plasma dispersing. And I don't know what that meant, what just happened. You know, I hope their engine didn't backfire or something, or whatever they use. But I was amazed by that.
Well, you know, another interesting thing, while I was on the ranch, the amount of orbs that people had photographed, because everyone had their cameras at night, and everyone would be taking pictures. I mean, you would see hundreds of orbs and a lot of people's different photographs that were hovering right there on James's property, which there are a few places that I've ever seen that many orbs in one place. So I don't know if there's a portal in that area there. It must be some sort of a gateway there, which allows his property to have all these unusual things happening.
Yeah, that's one thing. There's like some kind of vortex there, and I don't know when the last time you went up there, but he has like a Tibetan wheel, and that's where he thinks that's like the main spot for it. And, you know, the energy there is just amazing. It's just really, really, really amazing. I was sometimes people go up there and just have spontaneous healings, or the dreams that people have up there are just crazy.